Welcome to PrimeAlpha's interview series, insights from industry practitioners discussing their journey and their discoveries. Hello, my name is Amanda Jogia, the CEO of PrimeAlpha, an online ecosystem bringing together alternative opportunities and their investors. I would like to introduce Ted Jasinski, co-founder of BlackHawk Advisors, who specializes in identifying, acquiring, and optimizing manufacturing housing communities. Welcome, Ted.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I appreciate the time and the opportunity to speak about BlackHawk Advisors.
I am super excited because I think manufacturing housing is a really interesting opportunity set. So let's talk about your journey and how you got here.
Sure, absolutely. I started my career in New York at a firm called Kidder Peabody. Was involved in managed futures and working on accounts with Paul Tudor Jones and Louis Bacon. And the early parts of hedge funds, which seemed like eons ago, because that was 1989. And from there, moved into Kidder was bought and then worked for a firm called James River Capital. Simultaneously was moved down to Virginia. So moved from New York to Virginia, was told that I was going to die and go to heaven. And yes. It was great. No, actually, I've been down here for 25 years, and I was blessed to have the opportunity to start a hedge fund administration shop called Admiral Administration. And at that point, it was the opportunity to take everything I had done in my career and be a general manager and work on everything from accounting to business development, sales, manage people, took my firm from about 8 to 45 people and a handful of clients to about 80 clients, but I actually had an opportunity to see every asset class under the sun, entertainment royalties, patents and copyrights, storage leasing, airplane leasing. It was there that I kind of fell in love with esoteric assets and in the alternative world.
Amazing. So what was that pivotal point when you decided to kind of go off on your own and start BlackHawk?
Yeah, it's interesting because I am a very loyal person and loyal to a fault, I would say. And I'm a big believer in you pay your dues and good things happen and opportunities arise. And so we were owned by a foreign company that it was interesting because it was to the point where I had done everything I could possibly do within Admiral, and we weren't growing anymore in some of the other offices. And it came to a point where I was looking at, I've always been an investor and involved in a lot of different strategies. And so we kind of came to a mutual agreement that it was time to move on. And at the same time, my business partner, David Brown, who I'd worked with back at Kidder in early parts of James River, was reaching out to me. So it was just I call it sort of a God thing. It happened. We met and we got together and we launched BlackHawk, and we had some ideas and opportunities, but it evolved from there. And it was a really cool transition from in my career.
So what's the opportunity that you're seeing in manufacturing housing? I mean, it's such a opaque space, and I'm sure our audience is wondering, what is that?
Sure. No, MHCs, basically manufactured housing communities or mobile home parks. If you have investors or clients in the Southeast, particularly Texas, they don't mind calling them trailer parks. We don't like to call them that. But, it's affordable housing. And Dave and I started our first fund under BlackHawk in private lending, and we were lending to home builders in the Richmond, Virginia area, which at that point we thought was affordable housing, being a $200,000 home or $250,000 home. But then we started studying MHCs because there were a handful of operators here in Richmond. And we realized, well, this is really affordable housing. You're, $30,000 to $50,000 home within these communities. And we started studying it, reaching out to mentors, and really through a mutual contact had found subject matter expert down in Charleston, South Carolina, and have since really integrated them into our business. And as Dave and I learned from our days at Kidder and James River, some other areas, that it is all about, you can't do everything, right? It is about finding those experts. So we're not commercial real estate experts. We are structured finance people, and alternative investment guys. And, we can find those opportunities, but it's a very fragmented industry. There's a lot of mom and pop parks. They've been around for decades, particularly in the 50s. And you'll often hear that people say, "Oh, they're cash cows. They're great investments." Well, they are, but there's a lot of work that goes into them, right? And you don't just buy a park and snap your fingers, or collect the rent and think that everything is going to go great. These are communities that are often needing paving. They're needing aesthetic improvements, landscaping, fixing up homes, getting rid of crime, and so forth. And so we saw those opportunities where investors can not only make a good return, but really improve lives. And so we had one of our key investors, as affectionately called it, the double line investment. And we see that it's a double line in the sense that you can make a good return, but you also are rewarded by helping folks.
It's a really interesting, in terms of your business and how you've pivoted going from debt and now into manufacturing housing. What do you think you guys did right?
That's a great question, because our thesis was right on the private lending, and I would say it was a harder business to run because in hindsight, you really have to look at every dollar spent, every nail that goes into a home, and so forth, and a little bit of the Wild West. Now, people would think that MHC investing is the Wild West, and it actually is a lot more, let's say, tighter than maybe just residential home building, which is unique and interesting to us. But part of our thesis was in studying the MHCs is that you will be rewarded if you aggregate parks and you build portfolios. And so being from an institutional grade and moving into, buying one park at a time, there's a lot of groups out there that can buy parks and just, buy a real estate asset and do well. But we, coming from sort of a hedge fund or private equity background, knew that we could structure funds and create something that, again, can bring a nice return to investors, right? A cash on cash and then a nice IRR. But you really are rewarded with your aggregation. And by example, 4 or 5 years ago, you can buy these parks. Some of them were 30% occupied. We'd be buying them at an 8-9% cap rate. If it was even a stabilized park, it might be 7 or 8% cap rate. The market has changed significantly in the last 3 years. There's a lot more attention, the cocktail parties, everyone's talking about owning, right? An MHC and how does that work? But the interesting part is that maybe 10 to 12% of the industry is institutionally owned. That's the Yes Communities of the world, or Sun Communities, the really big players. So you're staring at a lot of opportunity in the sense that we're growing, we're sort of that mid-tier institutional grade, and then you have a lot of the single parks and such that are owned by small LLCs and groups. But where we really got it right is that we brought a very institutional, we brought a lot of controls and procedures. We don't touch any dollars. Our park managers don't touch anything. So it's all electronic. Which is wild. And we also, as we aggregate, you get a full percentage point to build these portfolios as you exit. And that's a really cool concept. And we're seeing that. And, now it's almost a 1.5 to 2 points. So there's buying opportunities still, but the trade is much different. I often like to use the baseball term. When we were starting 4 years ago, we were more in the third inning. Now we're maybe in the 6th or 7th inning. So still room to go, but the trade is changing a little bit.
Right. At PrimeAlpha, we talk to a lot of fund managers. And a thing that's really come up more and more frequently is especially in real estate, is the family offices hiring spectacular teams to go out and invest their capital for their own portfolio, and then seeing these spectacular teams then become entrepreneurs. And I think that fits with you guys. So what was the catalyst of why you want to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I would probably say if you had asked me 30 years ago, I would not describe myself as an entrepreneur. Just a hardworking individual, more of a generalist, involved in a lot of different things. But everyone's, got a time and place, right, to shine. And so it's unique in that I would often describe our business as having four partners. Dave Brown and myself are the partners of BlackHawk, but then we team up with two partners of TrueBuild, which is our park operator group out of Charleston, and they're also entrepreneurs. And so, if you're hungry, if you're dedicated, if you, are willing to put everything into the business and do everything and anything, right? From taking out the garbage to changing printer cartridges to, watching every dollar, to doing heavy analysis, right? Financial analysis. It's kind of cool. You get an opportunity to do it all. It's interesting that you mentioned, family offices, because that's ideally who we're suited well to, because they can move quickly, but this isn't, anyone can invest in this asset class. I think it's, if you can look at the rewards and the risk reward, and I've seen a lot of different risk reward opportunities in my career. This is one of the better ones. You got high reward with controlled risk, right? I mean, interest rates stay low. Affordable housing is always needed. And we as Americans aren't the best at saving money, right? So unfortunately, you have to provide those affordable places to live.
So this is my final question. What do you think is your superpower and why?
I love this question because when I when I think of superpowers and I think of Superman, I think of Batman. I don't know if Captain America is considered but he's one of my favorites. I'm very humbled, very blessed with a lot of great things that have happened in my career and where I am now, where Dave and I are, and my other partners down in Charleston. Teamwork, we're passionate about what we do. We care. Again, just having those great partners and people to build a business with. The interesting part of how we came together is that we have a lot of different skill sets and a lot of experiences, right? And it's kind of cool to see that all blend together. But we're 60 something deep. And so we were built before we even started transacting and doing things, which is uncommon. But it's human capital, right? You have to make sure that you've got a lot of people that have the same motivations, the same desires, the same passion they're going to put in. It's 24/7 as a small business owner. You don't get a break. You can go on vacation, but you're constantly thinking of the business and how to improve and what to do. So no particular, superpower, but we have secret sauces within the business.
I love it. Always need the secret sauce. Thanks, Ted, so much for your time. We'll drop Ted's information into this podcast. And I definitely would love to have you back to talk more about the industry and kind of trends and things that you're seeing, because I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of evolution in the space.
Absolutely. Thank you for the time.